Design has changed a lot in the last couple of decades, especially in our experience at IDEO. IDEO has been around for, I think now 25 or 30 years, and started by doing products. And the reason that we're still doing products today, but we're not limited by that, is because we've always been process-based. So at IDEO, the process is really about understanding people in order to then design for them. And so the way that design seems to be changing in the future is really about designers having a much bigger sort of value to provide in the way that our systems and cultures operate. And so luckily, having a process allows us to then start to look at those questions. If you're designing a device, for instance, it's really about one person in one moment with a thing. And often when we're addressing systems challenges, it's about many people with many things over a longer period of time. And so we have to find new methods. We're iterating on our research methodologies all the time. Basically, how do we start to understand many different types of stakeholders simultaneously in a really rapid way that allows us to not get stuck forever just trying to make sure that we learn everything really deeply. It's to have these representative samples that help us really develop a deep empathy so that as designers we can start making stuff, bringing it back out to people, iterating on that. There's a way that I like to think about learning, which helps me then know how to design for it, which is basically everything we do, kind of the ways that we interact in the world, we form a mental model. Now, it's not just in your mind. Of course, I think it's in your sort of whole being, but we can just sort of use the word mental model for that. We form a mental model about what it is. And then what happens is something in the world gives us new information. And our model is no longer relevant. Our model is disrupted. And the process of learning is the process of then reconciling that disruption to find a new model. And what's great about kind of having that as a paradigm is you can say, okay, so how do we create disruption, right? How do we make it so that in this class or in this dialogue or in this experience, I understand what you know enough to know how to show you something just beyond it so that then you seek to resolve that discomfort that happens when you're like, wait, this doesn't match what I already know and believe. I'm really excited by what you guys are developing. I think it's going to be, first of all, I think the topic of addressing India's challenges of the future is profound. The world will learn a whole lot from what gets developed here in the next 20, 30, 50 years. So I'm really excited that that's actually being formalized, right, through institutions like this. One of the things I love in your framework is the fluidity of different structures. So you have a traditional structure for a university that allows the system to think it's okay. It builds on existing models that people know to relate to, but also brings in new models like the deep connection to industry, having consulting happening at the same time as having school happening, and forming new structures that bridge both the sort of what's happening in the real world with what's happening in an academic institution. And so that ability to go between those different, I don't know, ways of learning, I think will be incredibly powerful.